Evening, everybody. This is IFBB Pro Dr. Mark the Shark Smith coming to you with my cigar, tranquil backyard, wanting to discuss the topic of motivating others. It's something I love to discuss as a leadership expert and one that prides myself in understanding communication, leadership tactics, and motivating, inspiring others the right way. I love talking about this topic. Where I will also be discussing today is staying away from and being very kind of cognitive of manipulation. Now, motivation and manipulation are two very different things, but can accomplish very similar goals. And so you have to be very careful that you're not using manipulation as a tactic of motivation, because that is not a long-term way of doing things, and it also is going to lose its luster when the people that you are manipulating are going to start to understand that you are manipulating them for selfish reasons, and they will cease to help you out or give a shit about what you want and are talking to them about. All right, so motivating others and its inspiration comes from a deep-seated root of caring, humility, honesty, and genuinely wanting those other people to be successful and getting them there in a completely selfless way. And that selflessness of their success will translate to success for you. That's the mindset you have to have true and solid motivation and inspiration as a leader. Sadly, most will rely on what we all know as manipulation, something that we all don't like, which usually is a form of using either some kind of fear, guilt, repercussion, or some kind of negative thing happening in order for them to do what you want them to do. There's even a method of using their own wants as a motivation tactic. In sales, you'll hear is the carrot or the whiff 'em or things of that nature, which that is important. It is, but it should not be a reason to force somebody to do something they don't want to do or that doesn't make them successful. It is another manipulation tactic, and it will lose its luster, and people will cease to want to will not respond to that. When you're motivating the right way, their inspiration, you know these individuals, you know their family, you know their home life, you know what makes them tick, you know why they come to work in the morning, and you use that information to properly motivate them to get their work done. You can have hard talks with them. You can understand exactly where they want to get in life and how you're trying to get them there and how their success translates to your success. And you make sure that you make that a very, very clear point as you're going through there. You motivate through your charisma, but you always keep it personalized to them and the team that they're working on. It has to matter. Like, the easiest way to say it, it has to come from a place of true kindness and care. And as long as you're doing that, you'll never manipulate people, because you're not doing it for a selfish reason. You're doing it because you want to motivate them to succeed for their own success. And that's okay, and that's good. And sadly, that's not the norm. What you will get is a lot of leaders, and even in your personal life, you'll deal with this a lot. You'll deal with a lot of manipulation of people trying to manipulate you to do things you don't necessarily want to do, or to elevate your workload to a level that's not really conducive to what you can sustain, or that makes anything better for you in the long run. And so this all comes from a very, very insecure place of these individuals thinking that they're smarter than their counterparts and that they can use your words against you, and that they can also manipulate you through their position of power with fear. They can manipulate you through guilt, that's, you're going to hurt other people or them, or they're going to use it, or they're going to use your own kind of motivation as far as like making sure you can pay your bills, or like putting your kids through college or whatever it is, to try to justify forcing you to do things that you don't want to do, or necessarily that aren't going to be like the most conducive for success in your world. That's manipulation, and manipulation is a tried and true method that's out there all the time. Now, if you're like me and you want to be like a trustworthy, honest human being and a good leader, you can't manipulate people. You shouldn't want to manipulate people. It should not be something that's even in your repertoire. You should genuinely want people to just be successful for them to be successful. And it should be a very symbiotic and mutual relationship of success that goes along with that. Manipulation is very, very selfish and very one-sided and parasitic. And so stay away from that. because there's a lot of manipulators out there. You probably know them. They're in your family. They're in your house, maybe. But you'll definitely be working with these individuals in their leadership roles, because they'll use their title. And they'll say they'll threaten you with repercussions of being written up or having pay deducted, etc., etc. They'll use guilt of how you're not pulling your weight and you're causing all sorts of other strife or issues of that nature. They'll use a lot of malicious tactics to make it work. And this isn't conducive. Now, if you are somebody that likes to rely on manipulation, I'm going to tell you, stop. One, because you're being an asshole, and you're also being a terrible person, because it's not going to work long term. If you rely on that a lot, that's not a good way of being in general. Like, people are going to understand that you are manipulating them, and nobody likes to be manipulated, just like nobody likes to be sold on things. So stop doing that, because once people come to grips and understand that that's what you're doing, they're going to stop responding to it. They're going to find ways around it, or they're not going to take you seriously if you're with your empty threats and your bullshit. So don't do that. But so as a leader, take the tried and true method: honesty, transparency, care, humility. Just be a good person and you'll be perfectly fine, because none of your decisions and the things that you say to your people are going to have a malicious undertone or a selfish kind of mannerism to them. If you're trying to manipulate people, you need to stop, and you have no business being in a leadership role in general. And like I said, you're just contributing to an awful cycle and just putting yourself down a downward spiral, just becoming a terrible person. Because smart people and skilled people will understand that you're manipulating them. And when that happens, you not only are losing that audience, you've made enemies at that point. And that's not going to end well for you, because all the people around you are not going to, rah-rah around you. They don't care for your success. They won't do anything for you. And they'll understand that everything you say is bullshit, because that's what manipulation is. It's a bunch of bullshit to get people to do what you want them to, isn't it? So don't do that. And also, it's the golden rule: do upon others how you want to be done to yourself. And I don't want to be manipulated, so I'm not manipulating other people. Do I have the ability to do that if I wanted to? Of course I do. But I'm not going to, because I'm not an asshole. And I'm not a terrible person. If I've dealt with enough terrible people in my life, I don't need to be one of them. And I've met enough manipulators that I don't really even want to entertain the idea of doing that. And the minute I even hensely sense manipulation in any type of relationship or people I talk to, I immediately am just going to kind of cut ties, because I'm not dealing with that, because it's not a way of being. Sorry if that sounds a little harsh or a little kind of hard criticism, but coming from a place of understanding and seeing it, and it just oozes out of people. And so stay away from those individuals. And sadly, but you're going to deal with them in a corporate setting or many job positions. A lot of leaders lean on this because that's what they're taught and that's what they learn how to do, and they think it works because it works sometimes. Don't be that way. Don't be the norm. Care. Just, you motivate people based on what they want to be motivated by. And that's as easy as it gets. People are inspired by people they trust and respect. People will break their backs for you because they know you would do the same. You don't need to manipulate them to get what you want out of it if you are if you're willing to do the stuff yourself. So that's me giving me a piece of advice about proper leadership methods when it comes to motivating others. You do it from a level of care and love, and you'll be perfectly fine. If you're doing it for a selfish reason and you're learning that you're having to try to guilt people into stuff or make them afraid to do it, or there's going to be repercussions, or they're just trying to do it to make you happy because they don't want to deal with you type situation, you gotta ask yourself a hard question about where you're doing in life. Anyway, that's me, 2 cents, cigar in my backyard. Enjoy your nights.